Hello everyone, I am Amit Kumar, IAS 2019 batch, and I had the geology optional, as you all know now. So, in this video we will be reviewing this latest paper of 2020 mains that we have at our hands. Mains finished just a few days ago, and if we, in general, if we go by how the mains was, how the paper was, the trend is continuing as it was for last 3 4 years. That means paper one was very easy, paper two was a bit on a dicey side, but still it could have been easily done. In general, of the question trends that we have in our geology optional, we are very simple, that we say some questions are traditional questions. Traditional questions in the sense means that they are continuing for years and years and years, and they are directly picked from the words given in the syllabus which is mentioned by the UPSC. So if we go by that analysis, in this year, out of 400 marks, of which 250 had to be solved, out of 400 in paper one, 90 questions were like that, which were out of, you can say, out of tradition, non-traditional questions, and 310 were traditional questions. Similarly, in the paper two, out of 400 marks, out of which the options are there, you will need to solve only 250 marks. 60 marks were non-traditional questions, and others were traditional questions. So you can see that the weightage of the traditional questions was still high. So now what we'll do is we'll see a general trend, that which topics of paper one and then which topics of paper two, how many questions were asked, and what are the general trends. So we will cover first the general trends, and then we'll go question wise, that is this question a traditional questions, is this easy question, is this a hard question, or these basic kind of things. So we'll begin with, first, if we look at our geology paper one, so we have six syllabus word which is mentioned in our syllabus. There are six topics, you can say, which are covered. One is general geology, geomorphology and remote sensing, structural geology, paleontology, stratigraphy, and then hydrogeology and engineering geology. Then if we see in geology optional, in there are two paper one and two. In each paper, 400 marks questions are asked. Then you get the options that you have to do only 5 out of 8 questions. That is 250 marks has to be attempted out of 400 marks. So this marks, what we are saying, that this distribution of marks we have done based on the 400 marks. So let's say what we see is that the most percentage, you can say 19% and 20%, is coming from general geology, geomorphology and remote sensing. Then we have 18% and 18% respectively, which are coming from stratigraphy and hydrogeology and engineering geology. Then we have 15% coming from paleontology and 11% which are coming from structural geology. Very simple, we can say none of the subject is getting too high of a weightage, none of the subject is getting too low weightage. That means the marks are equally distributed in this paper, geology paper one, between all these six subjects: general geology, structural strategy, geomorphology, remote sensing, paleo, and hydro and engineering geology. So this is one thing which must keep in mind, that no subject in here which can be just avoided. All subjects are equally important. So rather than going in too deep of one topic and not covering another topic altogether, you should cover all topics in general, even if you are not able to go in deep in all the topics. Now let's start with our question paper. So this is our paper one. So first question is the section A. First question is a compulsory question where 5 questions are asked. All are 10 marks each. First was discuss the different types of meteorites. Now, if someone says different types of meteorites, meteorites is very basically easy. It's a very general question. You can do multiple classification years. You can say that first either you will find the meteorites are fall or fine types, then you can say it's a iron, stony iron, then stony types, then chondrites, and all these things. This is one of the easiest question and directly from the syllabus. Second question is discuss the various field in which IRS data can be used for development work and management of resources. IRS means Indian remote sensing data. We can say can be used for development work and management of resources. Very general question. It's a GS question where you have to just say what are the use of remote sensing data. That's it. Any field you can choose. Here it is saying development work and management of resources. It's not specific with geology. You can use any topic, any related topics altogether. It's a GS question. Again, it's an easy question. Third question comes briefly describe two diagnostic landform, each of hot arid and cold arid climate. Directly from the syllabus, directly from the geomorphology. Hot arid, cold arid. Hot arid is simple, what we study as our desert landforms. You can describe any diagnostic landform, either it can be erosional landform or a deposition landform. Similarly in cold, which is you can say it's a glacial climate. So cold arid means glacial, cold fluvial means glaciofluvial. So hot arid means a desert landform, cold arid will mean our just a desert land, cold simple glacial landform. So next question, how do we determine the top of the beds for a primary feature? Basically, one thing I was confused, this question should have been asked in paper 2 because it's a sedimentologic questions. When we have a top bed, bottom bed, and then we have a foreset. So based on the angle of foreset, we determine the top of the beds. It's very simple. Or we have also some sedimentary structures which help us to determine the top of the beds. So this is a sedimentology question. Again, that is a very common question in sedimentology. This question is generally asked. No problem. Next question, briefly describe the classification of fold on base of fold, attitude, dip, and plunge of the fold. This is a fluty classification. We all know. Again, very simple, very simple. One of the very basic questions directly from the syllabus. So you can see all these 5 questions, the 50 marks question can be easily answered. That means these 50 marks question can be easily fetched, these 50 marks, let's say, and all of them are easy questions, and these are compulsory questions. So getting like this is like getting bonus branches in the easy questions or a compulsory questions. Next, if we go, then we get other question which is optional question. So like out of question number 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, you have to do 5 questions. Out of these you have to do in this terms. So sorry, out of these 5 you have to do 3 questions. So let's say first 2A is internal structure of the earth and note on the discontinuity. 20 question, very easy. All the discontinuity you can write, more Robic, all those things, simple. It's again directly from the syllabus, will not go in deep. Next question, what is the difference in geomorphology, Eastern Ghats, Western coast of India? Very easy question. It's a very common question. Both these questions, internal structure of the earth was asked last year and also before that. It's a third time continuously they are asking the question 2A. Question 2B also, if you go to the previous year question, at least in last 5 years, not 5, last 10 years, same question has been asked at least thrice or fourth. So again, a repetitive. And third, what is an unconformity and what are its structural stratigraphic importance? Directly from the syllabus. Structural importance of unconformity, stratigraphic. Static, what is the structural importance? Structural importance, we will say that how it is related in structural geology. So there's a part of unconformity which you study in structural geology, that part you can answer. Stratigraphic, what is important? Because it's a hiatus, it's a time gap. It will tell that in this time deposition did not happen. So that's how you determine in the stratigraphy. 4 different type of unconformity which need to sketch. Very common question. So all these questions 2A, 2B, 2C, I will say one of the easiest question which you will ever get. Very simple. 15, 30 marks, and 20 you have 50 marks. So these first 50 marks, next 50 marks, again one of the easiest questions that UPSC will ever ask you. Next, moving to 3. Question number 3, we will have first, what are the salient features of Indian satellites Cartosat 3 and RISAT 2B, and how are they superior to its predecessor? So Cartosat is 3 and RISAT 2B, both were launched in 2019, if I can recall, in November, October in the end. That's why this is a current affair question. So this is the only current affair question that UPSC can ask in geology. That means related to remote sensing, and is the only question that they have asked this year. Cartosat 3 and RISAT 2B. So you will not find this in any standard textbook. You will have to go to the ISRO website, find the data, what is the spectral resolution, what is the temporal resolution, what is the SWAT, and all these things, and then you can write a comparison. So if you would have been aware of the current affair, it was easy, or else it is a difficult question. Then coming to our question number 3b, explain the magnitude and intensity as an expression of size of the earthquake and add note to damage caused by that. Very simple. Two skills are there, we know, and simple. It is a very simple question. And damage of the earthquake again is a GS question. Next one, what is the shear zone and what are the conditions of its formation? Discuss general characteristics and types based on deformation size. So again, shear zone, we have a particular topic in our structural geology, but there are too many things asked in this question. First, they're asking shear zone. Second, they are asking what are the conditions of formation. Third, they are asking general characteristics and types of deformation types. So first, shear zone. Let's say if we have a shear R as shear, then what is the deformation that this shear is going to produce? And then the deformation, then they're saying what is the characteristics and types of deformation. So this is a bit tough question. So we'll say 3 was a tough question because first in question number 3, we had 3A, which was based on the current affair question, which was Cartesian 3 and reset 2B. And then we have a question number 3, which is saying about shear zone. So better to avoid question number 3. Question number 1 was very easy, which is a compulsory question. 2 was very easy. So 1 and 2 definitely we are going to solve. 3 will basically avoid. Now, okay, we missed her. Then if we go to 3C, explain the effects of, no, we moved to different topic. Yeah. 3C, what is a shear zone and what are the conditions done? Question number 4 we are coming to. Discuss Mohr's stress diagram and significance. What is the relevance interpreting different stress conditions in rock? Mohr's stress diagram and its significance, very simple, straightforward question. Yeah, so very straightforward question. Again, it's a very common question which is generally asked, so can be easily solved, no problem. And relevance in stress, direct syllabus question. Then 4B, discuss the mechanism of seafloor spreading and give evidence. Again, a very general question, very easy question. Seafloor spreading is very easy. And evidence we already have covered, like most of them. Describe 3 main controlling factors of soil formation. How does modern soil differ from the paleo soil? First part is easy. What are the 3 main controlling factors for soil formation? We all know 5 factors are there, 3 are major factors and 2 are secondary factors. So those can be mentioned. But then how does the modern soil differ from the paleo soil? This is a tough question. See, when we talking about the paleo soil, it's basically paleo soil will be derived from paleo rocks. And current soil is derived from the modern rocks. So if you're talking about the paleo soil which are derived from the paleo rocks, and what is the content of the paleo rock? Paleo rocks will be much more on a non-magmic side, like it is not felsic. It will be rich in magnesium side. So when it will be rich in Mg side, then the soil will also be rich in Mg side. So this thing has to be explained. So this is how, because through paleo soil, they are trying to ask what is the difference between the current rock and the old rocks, because soil is ultimately a weathered product of the rocks. So paleo soil, I will say, will how to answer this is to cover the paleo rocks and how paleo rocks are different from the modern rocks. Modern rocks are more felsic and they were more magnetic. Then this is section. So 4 was a good question which could have been attempted. Now coming to question number 5. So question number 5 again is a compulsory question of section B. So now first question, describe the 3 processes by which plant remains and invertebrate shells can be preserved as fossil. Simple fossil preservation question, very easy. The next, give an account of the mineral wealth associated with Kadapa supergroup of rocks. Kadapa supergroup of rocks, what are the mineral wealth associated? So see, in general, when there are 2 sides of this question. One, when we say mineral wealth, we are talking about economic geology, which is a paper 2 question. When we're talking about a Kadapa supergroup of rocks, we're talking about Kadapa basin and the rocks which have been deposited in the Kadapa basin. And then when I'm saying about Kadapa basin, then we are talking about stratigraphy. So they have mixed both these topics together, and they're saying what is the mineral wealth associated with the Kadapa basin. So when we are saying mineral wealth, so you will have to add both the perspective. First, we'll have to say about Kadapa stratigraphy you write, and then what are the few minerals that you know which are found in Kadapa, you write about them. So both you will have to combine. Next, briefly describe the economic mineral deposits associated with tertiary rocks of India. So when you say tertiary rocks of India, then we know that tertiary period, and what are the important economic mineral deposits which will be found there. Again, this is, they have joined, you will say, this economic geology here, they are mixing a bit, but this would have been a paper 2 question rather, what I would say. Both this 5B and 5C. Then 5D, explain the factors in the groundwater movement storage. Very easy question. All the factors that you know: porosity, permeability, transmissivity, storage capacity, all those things you can write here. Discuss 5 engineering property of rock. Directly, this is question, syllabus words of the syllabus. Engineering property of rocks. That's what we have to study. So out of this, what we will say that A was very easy. B and C is a dicey question that you have to think a bit to answer these questions, and you have to link it to paper 2. And D and E were very easy. So not so easy at the question number 1, but still these questions are very easily doable. Now, if we move to question number 6, just a minute. Yeah. So 6 is basically, first is morphological trends in evolution of Homo sapiens from the proto-homins. See, every year in our syllabus with respect to these invertebrates, 3 have been mentioned: human, horse, elephant. So either one year human evolution will be asked, either second year they will ask horse evolutionary trend or elephant evolutionary trend. Every year one of these they will ask, and it's a fixed 20 marker question. You cannot go wrong in this question. So this is directly from the syllabus. This year they have asked for humans. Simple. Next, draw a tectonic subdivision map of India and discuss the salient features of each subdivision. Tectonic subdivision map of India, again directly, it's a basically a general geology question. Tectonic map of India, and this is something basic that you should know. What is a tectonic map of India? What are the tectonic divisions of India? It's very simple. Himalayas is a tectonic division, Cratons are a tectonic division, mobile belts are a division. What are these? So these are tectonic divisions, and then you should be able to describe each of them. It links with stratigraphy, as simple as that. Next, explain the process saltwater intrusion with neat sketches. Give examples from India. Saltwater intrusion, Guyven-Hertzberg equation, simple. How much groundwater is being penetrated by salt water? How much the rise is there with respect to the normal water? Simple equation is there. That has to be described here in 15 mark question. And then from examples from India, this is something which we generally avoid. So but see, if 2 things is there: one, if you know exact places where this has happened, well and good. But if you do not know exactly which places, then how to go about this question? Salt water will happen in the intrusion will happen in the area where the groundwater has been heavily exploited. Now, which area groundwater will be heavily exploited? The major towns and cities along the sea coast. So in India, if you say which are the major towns and cities along the sea coast, you will say the biggest one is, in the sense, let's say Chennai on the east coast. So you can say near the Chennai, some this has happened. Then few cases are reported from Rajahmundry. So if you are not able to exact know the place, but at least you should mention some big cities where the high exploitation of the groundwater will be there, and there we will have definitely this problem. So in general, also you can answer this question even if you are not aware of the exact places in India where this has happened. But in general, saltwater intrusion is a very exactly mentioned in the word of the syllabus, and it's a very easy question. And again, so question number 6, I will say again, is a very easy, not easy, it's a traditional question. This is a question which each and every question we know which we should ask. These are repetitive questions. These get repeated every year. Then 7A, describe the standard stratigraphic time scale of Earth. Beginning with the oldest to youngest, stratigraphy they have asked. Discuss the principal events. Very simple. That's the first topic in stratigraphy that you should know. That what is the stratigraphic time scale and what are the major events? Major events means the extinction events basically. And then at what events, which cratons were formed and what evolution of life happened. Very general question, very good question. 7B, give an account of the lower Gondwana flora from peninsular, extra-peninsular India. What environmental condition do they indicate? Directly from the syllabus, and this questions is asked again and again every year. Either they will ask the environmental conditions and flora and fauna of Gondwana or Shivalik. So either of these they ask alternate year, what we have seen. So you should know either, definitely you should prepare both of them, and definitely one of them will be asked. So see, these are the low hanging fruits. One question which we saw was 6A. 6A question, what does it say? It says about that evolution of fossil one, the evolutionary trends, either in humans, elephants, or horses. This question, that for flora and fauna in Gondwana or Shivalik, these are lower having. Every year they are definitely asking. So you must know about this thing. These are the things which you should must be prepared. That 15 and 20, 35 marks are just like they have already told that this will be given every year, and you have to just pick it up. So prepare these questions well, which you are sure that you are going to get. 7C again, what is a landslide, different types and causes? Very easy question, direct. Give two examples from India. Any when you can. This is a general studies question. Examples we are asking from India. So 6 was easy, 7 was easy, and then where we saw what 2 was easy. So if you get attempted question number 1, question number 2, question number 5, question number 6, and question 7, no problem. You could have skipped question number 3 and 4, which were a bit tough, I would say. Question number 8, what is the natural and artificial recharge process to enhance the groundwater potential of hard and soft rock terrains? Here they have complicated is by giving hard and soft rock terrains. So you, in general, you know what is the artificial recharge process, but there will be difference if we talk about hard rock terrains and soft rock terrains, because hard rock terrains means which have a granitic basement or which have a metamorphic rock basement, which is basically present in the Deccan and southern India. Soft rock terrain means we have unconsolidated rock kind of terrain, which is basically our Gangetic and Brahmaputra river belt, which is in the northern India. So both of these systems, there are separate things are required. For example, if you have to put induction wells to recharge the groundwater in a hard rock terrain. But even if you just spread the water on the top of a soft rock terrain by creating good pond system and creating good area extension, then you can recharge this water. So this is just basic thing. If you know, you can divide which will fall in the first category and which will fall in the second category and can be answered. So this is something which you should think on the spot in exam and should be able to do. And this will come with practice and with a good conceptual clarity. Name two fossils and discuss how these are used in reconstructive paleoclimatic condition. Very easy question. You should be knowing at least 10 to 15 of them, because every year there's a topic called application of microfossil. Every year they ask a question. They can ask this way or the other way. This way they have asked paleoclimatic conditions. So how reconstructing paleoclimatic conditions, what are the microfossils that we can use? So this is again something which you should be very easily be able to do. Next, discuss about the KT boundary with examples from India, direct from the syllabus question. This also, see, there's a syllabus in a word in our syllabus which is called as a boundary problems. So boundary problem, that's in stratigraphy. So there are many boundaries which are not exactly defined. And the definition is in the way that this in India, what we have a boundary, what we delimit as a boundary varies from what has been done by the world geologists. So these are what we call as a boundary problem. Here we have a KT boundary problem, Cretaceous and Tertiary boundary problem. So this is one of them, and this is also easy question. Like there are three important boundary problems. You should be able to know each one of them, and either alternate year they ask one question about boundary problem. So 8 was also easy, but so in general, I would say out of question number 5, B and C were dicey questions. Question number 3 was a bit tough because they involved current affair of reset Cartosat 3 and reset 2B, and then rest was easy questions. So that's why paper 1 was easy. And when I discussed with some of and when we discussed with some of the aspirants who have given the exam, paper 1, they were able to answer very well and generally all the questions. And in my case also, most of marks I got in paper 1, 160, 170 something. So that means paper 1 can fetch you good marks. And this is again is a paper which will fetch you marks because it's a very easy paper. All the questions are directly from the syllabus. All the questions says that you know that these questions are going to come. So it's all about preparing. So if you are able to prepare these questions well, most are questions which are directly from the syllabus only. So when we say that it is directly from the syllabus only, you should be able to answer this question. Very simple. If someone is saying it is from the syllabus and then not able to answer, then you cannot say that it's a hard question or I could not solve this question. If it mentioned the syllabus, you are there to prepare that, you should prepare that, and if that question is asked, you should be able to answer in such a way that you get good marks. Very simple. If something is out of syllabus and asked, then we can say that, oh, this question was hard, this question was such, this is out of syllabus, and something. But this question, paper one, exactly from the syllabus, nothing, no variation whatsoever. And one of the easiest question, easily you can fetch 170, 180 if you write a good paper. We'll see how many aspirants fare in this exam this year and how many are able to score good marks. But paper one, yeah, definitely you can score. Now, let's say see paper two. So in general, if we see paper two, so paper two consists of, first topic is mineralogy, and then we have igneous and metamorphic, then we have sedimentary petrology, then economic geology, mining geology, and geochemistry and environment. So again, out of 400 marks, what we say, maximum 23% what we have is from igneous and metamorphic. That is bound to be there because two major topics are igneous, metamorphic, and then sedimentary. But then 20%, 20%, and 20% is from three topics, which is geochemistry and environmental geology, mineralogy, and then we have economic geology. And 15% is contributed by sedimentary petrology, and mining geology had a mere 3%. So when we say that in paper one, we had equal distribution from all the six topics. In paper two, we had not the equal distribution. There was a very less, you can say, percent contribution from the mining geology side. Other five had a good contribution to make. So this is one difference that we see in geology paper two. Now, again, let's go to our paper and yeah, let's start with section A of paper 2. So let's start with 1A. How do you measure the refractive index of minerals and distinguish high and low relief under the microscope? Easy question, very easy, directly from the syllabus. Write about the symmetry elements of a crystal. Symmetry elements of the, this is one of the easiest question that you will get ever in crystallography. So crystallography is a hard topic, it's a very conceptual topic, but if somebody is asking about symmetry elements, this is the easiest question that you will get, and this is a compulsory question. Again, this is a bonanza. They are giving like freely the marks in this question, definitely. Third, explain the salient features exhibited rocks due to thermal metamorphism. So what are the thermal metamorphism is a topic. Thermal means heat metamorphism. So metamorphism, which is more due to heat, that is more due to temperature and less due to pressure. So what are the salient features which rocks will exhibit if they are undergoing the thermal metamorphism? Very simple question. Next, 1D, explain with suitable example the implication of albite and orthite solid solution in the understanding of crystallization magma. Albite and orthite solid solution series is exactly mentioned in the syllabus. There are three series which are mentioned in syllabus, and albite and orthite is very basic of them. You must be able to do this. Very simple question. Just you have to make one diagram, and then you have to explain the entire thing based on that ABAN crystallization diagram. Simple. 1E, how are sedimentary rock classified in general based on the process formation? Very easy, shale sandstone classification they are asking. So all these questions, if I say, are easy question. One which can be dicey, which you are not able to exactly answer, will be 1C, salient feature exhibited rocks due to thermal metamorphism. That's something of a dicey, and otherwise all the four are easy. But in general, this is something we should be able to answer if we have prepared well. Question number 2 now start. See, they had mixed the syllabus. Let's say if question number 2 in paper 1 was there, 2A would be from other topic, 2B will be from different topic, and 2C will be from different topic. Here what we see is 2A, 2B, 2C are all from the same topic, that is they are from crystallography and mineralogy. Let's say 2A, what about the crystal structure of monoclinic amphiboles, and cite mineral examples along with the formula, add a note on their paragenesis. So first is very easy. First is easy in the sense they want you to write a crystal structure of monoclinic amphibole. So you have to just describe amphiboles here. Monoclinic amphibole, simple. And what are the examples with the formula? Very easy. This is exactly what is in the syllabus. You have to do this. Add a note on the paragenesis. This is where it becomes dicey. Note on paragenesis of amphibole. uh, is something that is not a common question. It's not a traditional question, and it's a hard question. This you will need in-depth knowledge. So this is question that it will be, you can do two-third, because one you can do is you can define the structure of monoclinic amphibole. You can cite the mineral example with formula, but note on paragenesis will be hard. 2B, briefly write about the crystal form hexagonal system using projection diagram. Again, very easy. Directly from the syllabus, directly crystal forms of hexagonal system. Very simple. 2C, define pleochroism mineral and write about the utility of pleochroism to distinguish mineral and provide it. Again, this is easy. Pleochroism, very easy question. But 2A becomes dicey because of add a note on paragenesis of monoclinic amphiboles. This is where it becomes dicey, where you can say you will be able to do solve for 13, 14 marks out of 20, but 6, 7 marks you won't be able to solve. 2B, 2C are easy questions. Then moving to 3A, what do you understand by the term texture of a rock? Very easy. How do you rate the textures of igneous rock and with the process of magmatic crystallization? Again, very simple. Magmatic crystallization when happens, based, if there are two, based on that, one will have a larger size of grain, one will have a smaller size of grain. So who has a larger size of grain? If the larger grain is in smaller grain matrix, smaller grain is a larger grain matrix. Based on all that, we have a different texture. We have names of textures, and it's very simple in that terms. You can easily answer. Next, critically discuss the petrogenesis of anorthosite, common or tectonic significance, and the distribution of anorthosite. Direct from the syllabus. Anorthosite rocks are exactly mentioned in the syllabus, and of alternate year, or you can say twice in 3 years, they are asking about anorthosite. You must be prepared about this, because anorthosite is something which is very interesting rock. There is something called lunar anorthosite. When man went to moon and they brought the rock, that was an anorthosite. So that's why anorthosite is very interesting rock, and you must be able to understand and study anorthosite and reciprocate that in exam also. 3C, explain the effects of prograde metamorphism on impure carbonate. This is again a hard question, because if they would have asked effects of prograde metamorphism on a carbonate rocks, it's a good question which is from syllabus. But because of the term that they have mentioned here, the impure, this impure makes it's a very dicey question. Impure, it's the first time they have asked about impure carbonate rocks. So that's what it becomes a very hard question. So 3A was you could have done. 3B, if you know another side, you could have do. But 3C becomes a dicey question again. So because of impure carbonate rock, which has been mentioned here. So same one was doable. Question number 2 hard becomes because of this note to paragenesis. Question number 3, it becomes hard because of this impure carbonate rocks. So here we won't be able to answer some of them. Now, if we move, but these are optional questions. 1 was compulsory, 2 is optional, 3 is optional. So if 4 is something which all the question can be solved, then this problem goes. Let's say what is 4A? Illustrate with neat example sedimentary phases and phases associated with that of the progradational delta, directly from the syllabus. Sedimentary phases of a prograde delta environment. Easy, directly. Next, 4B. Classification of carbonate rocks based on textual components may be used for interpretation deposition environment. Justify the statement with reason. What do you have to write in this question? They are asking classification of carbonate rock based on textual component. So you can write there are 2 different classification of carbonate rocks. You can write any of them. But important thing is they are asking about your concept. Concept means and how it is useful in interpretation of deposition environment, how the texture of carbonate will tell you. So this you can understand if see the carbonate rock texture basically is what are it? They are whites, pelloids, skeletal elements are there, micrites are there, whites are there. So what does a skeletal show? What does a white show? What does a pelloid show with respect to deposition environment? If you know this is a very easy question. And if you have studied the classification well, then this question, Dunham classification, what we say, you should be able to answer this question. So this is something related to our Dunham classification. 4C, how would you distinguish burial diagenetic cements in a carbonate rocks from the petrographic study? This again is a dicey question. How would you distinguish burial diagenetic cements? So sometimes we study about burial diagenesis, but we do not study about cements. We study about burial diagenesis of carbonate rocks. But what they have asked is a burial diagenetic element cements in carbonate rock, and how you distinguish all these cement, different types of cements in a petrographic study. And then they want neat sketch in support of your answer. So again, this is a very tough question. one of the toughest questions that they have asked this year. So all 10 marks would be very tough. So 40 you can answer. So better we would go by answering question number 2 only, because here only thing we do not know is add a note to paragenesis. So we will attempt 1, we'll attempt 2. 3 also, because of this impure, it becomes hard. And 4 becomes hard because of diagenetic elements in carbonate rocks. See, generally what we have seen is that they do not ask carbonate rocks much. They ask about other types of rocks, mostly sandstones and sales and all those kinds of things. This year, let's say, where this is one question number 4C, diagenesis and carbonate rock, which we could not solve. Then they have asked program impure carbonate rocks, which are not solved. So you may feel that they are trying to ask more about carbonate rock, which they have not asked in previous years. So we can focus more on carbonate rocks from next time. Till now, based on last 3-4 years, that how the trend was, we were focused more on non-carbonate rocks. That is our siliceous rocks. But now on, I think it would be better if we focus more on the carbonate rock side. Then moving to question number 5A, section B. 5 is a compulsory question. 5A explain the process of formation of syngenetic and epigenetic ore deposit with suitable example. First topic which we study in our economic geology: what are syngenetic deposits, what are epigenetic ore deposits, and what are its types. Very simple. Describe the geology of East Coast bauxite deposits of India. So when we say East Coast bauxite deposit, where are the bauxite deposits on East Coast? Basically the Eastern Ghats. When we say about the Eastern Ghats bauxite deposit, how they would have been formed? All bauxite deposits are formed by the same way. There are 3 processes which are involved in the formation of bauxites. You should know this basically. What are the 3 conditions? You need high rainfall, you need alternate dry and wet season, and then you need some leaching process to go on. So these are the only process. But what is the major thing is that the East Coast, that means the Eastern Ghat bauxite, what is the origin? What is the original rocks from where they have formed? The original rocks, we can say, is a charnokites. So this is what is the difference. And basic, if you know the bauxite deposits of India, this is just a sub part of the bauxite deposits of India. That's why you should be able to answer this. Next, 5C discuss the various methods of conservation of mineral resource for achieving sustainable mineral development. GS question. General studies question. Nothing to do with geology. 5D, illustrate with example the role of chemical bonding in minerals in determining certain properties. Science question, again, nothing to do with geology. Chemical bond, ionic bond, all these things. Very simple question. 5E, write about the causes of sea level change. Again, sea level change is one of the question, which environment geology question, which is asked regularly these days. What we have seen, at least once in 3 years, they ask about it. All these questions, see, compulsory question, again, 5 is easy. Paper 1, 2 compulsory questions were very easy. Paper 2, compulsory question 1, we had 1 problem in 1C. Question number 5, easy. So compulsory question they are giving is something which is easy question. This is a very good sign. Few years back, they gave compulsory question out which 2, 3 were unsolvable types. So there you are definitely going to lose mark. You do not have option. You cannot switch. But if compulsory questions they are giving easy question, then at least there is scope that you can improve with the question. You can select other questions. You can make your choices and you can be smart and do. So we'll see question 6, 7, 8. 6A, discuss the salient features of various types of lead zinc ore deposit. Directly syllabus, you should know. Illustrate your answer with schematic diagram to explain the process of ore formation. Simple, directly syllabus question. 6B, describe the geological characteristic of important chromite deposit on different parts of Indian sheet. One major deposit is there, others you can just mention. So you should be able to mention in detail the Sukinda chromite deposit, and there are 2-3 deposits already. Just you should mention the name and the places. That's it. But again, very simple question, which we should be able to answer. Then what is cold bed methane and how it is exploited? Cold bed methane, CBM. We generally see, again, this is something, again, a new trend. They do not ask much more about CBM. They should ask more. Coal bed methane, gas hydrates. These are applied part of the geology, which is, what they focus is coal and oil and gas. This is something which will get depleted. These are the traditional fossil fuels and will get depleted over time. What are the new fossil fuels? You can say is a coal bed methane is one. We have shale gas is the one. We have gas hydrates is the one. These are the questions that they should be asking, and it's good to see one question on coal bed methane related to that. So if you follow well these developments, you should be able to answer. This is a very basic question. Coal bed methane, what it is? So whenever coal is being produced, along with this, methane is also there. And if you have 1 gram even of 1 kg of coal, it will have such a huge area because it has so surface area, because it has large amount of pores, and in all the surface area this methane gets attached. So generally with coal mines you will always find methane. So whenever some underground coal mining is being done, they all first remove the methane from the area, because methane is combustible, it can catch fire and the mines may burn. So already always it is associated with it. So what we do is simple fracking, what we do for shale gas. Similarly we can also expect coal bin methane. It's simple, nothing special. Then coming to next question. So again, the 6 is easy, you could be able to do this. Next, coming to what are the factors that influence the mobility of elements in near surface environment? How does the mobility element help in choosing indicator elements? But indicator element, first question our mining geology, you can say mobility of elements. This is a very easy question. Deep surface environment mobility, shallow surface environment mobility. They are asking about near surface environment mobility. So two types are there. Either they could have asked deep, or you should be, or they are asking a near surface. So maybe next year they may ask about deep seated environment mobility of elements. So you should be prepared for both, and directly both are from the syllabus. Mobility of elements is only mentioned in the syllabus, but mobility of elements are of two types: deep seated environment and near surface. This year they have asked near surface environment. Then we have one maths question, you can say. In the time, just you have to find out tonnage, grade, total copper content of an ore body. So once they have given you the thickness and SA value, then you can take a weighted average and you can solve this question. Very simple. This is 20 marks. This is, they are giving you bonus. If you solve this question, you get directly 20 marks. And just you have to find tonnage, grade, and total copper content. So tonnage will be total volume, grade will be your average SA value, and then total copper content you will have to find exact copper percentage in this. What are the seismic methods of mineral prospecting? Easiest question you can find. Geophysical methods of mineral prospecting, and in this the seismic methods. 7 you should be able to solve. 6 also you should be able to solve. Let's say 8. What do you mean by primitive mantle? Most basic, most important question in entire geochemistry. Illustrate the cosmochemical and observational constants on mantle composition. This is interesting. This, when I discuss with some of my batchmates and friends, this is where they are finding this question to be different. That different views. What my view is that this question represent cosmochemical and observational constants. When I'm saying cosmochemical constant, that means cosmic means related to universe. So when we say universe, we are relating to something called as meteorites, which in our geology represents the universal composition. And in meteorites, we have something called as carbonaceous chondrites, which represent the primitive mantle composition. And then if we, whenever we compare with this chondrites, our current composition of the mantle, then we make a diagram with respect to all the rare earth elements where we will have some anomalies. This is what they're asking according to me. 8b, explain what about the impact of various volcanic eruption on the environment. Very simple question, directly from the syllabus. And briefly mention the mitigation measures to mitigate slides. Easy. If you are able to understand this primitive mantle concept, and which is very important to understand, this question becomes very easy, because 8b and 8c are GS question kind of things. Only hard is 8a, but again, if you have a good conceptual clarity, this is one of the easiest question you will solve. But comparing to question paper 1, question paper 2 is I would say not so easy. It's a bit tough. In general, it is tough every year, but the compulsory questions are not tough this year. This is one of the bonus thing. What is tough is the optional question that we have to do. That is question number 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Out of which 6 you have to attempt 3 questions. Those are the questions where I would say are a bit tough question, because in each and every question they have put 1 or 2 question which is we can say which is a bit hard. So that way it becomes a bit dicey, paper number 2. But still one can score good marks in paper 2 also, not as high as 180 what we were thinking in paper 1, but definitely, see, I only also got 140 plus in paper number 2. So definitely 140 you can get. And my, when I gave paper 2 years ago, the paper exactly similar. It had dicey questions in paper 2, and this year also we have some dicey question in paper 2. So even if you score 140, let's say, and then 180 there, so you have a 320 at your hands, let's say 310 at your hand, which will be a very good score in option. So overall, this was our paper analysis. This is not an basically, we'll not say this is analysis. This is just analyzing how the question paper is there and what the trends are there. So let's say, what did we learn from this paper analysis? What are the trends that we are seeing? First trend, what we discussed there, that they have asked questions in paper 2, which is related to carbonates. Carbonates was something which was not focused much previously. We already used to focus on just our, mostly we'll say, siliceous rocks, SiO3 rocks. Now this year they have asked questions which is carbonate rocks. So now on, we need to focus on carbonate rocks also. Number one. Number two, the new technology we must study, shale gas, coal bed methane, gas hydrates. They can move in the future into these. Third thing, the trend what continues is in crystallography. They are not going too much deep into the crystallography. They are asking very basic questions. They have asked the forms of the hexagonal system. They are just asked about the crystal elements. Very simple. So you do not need to go too deep into crystallography. Basic knowledge will do. Similarly, what they have asked in igneous and metamorphic, what I would say, is a bit a conceptual question. This primitive mental question, let's say, from what when I study, I generally mix geochemistry with igneous and metamorphic. So all three are linked together. So when we're talking about primitive mental, you must be able to understand the conceptual clarity in paper 2 is very important, which is again being repeated in this year question paper. Paper 1 is exact syllabus based question. If you are able to go word by word of the syllabus, analyze the previous year questions, study them, you will definitely get 150 plus in paper 1. Definitely, it's very easy paper. Paper 1 has always been like this. So do not think too much about or too much source for paper 1. Paper 1 is exactly to the syllabus and lies previous year question, you will directly get it. Paper 2, where is you need some conceptual clarity. This is where you need some good guidance. See some good videos, try to analyze book, try to discuss with your batchmate, try to discuss with seniors, try to discuss with some geologists. You will be able to, once you are able to get the hold of concepts of paper 2, it becomes easy. So concepts are very important. And again, what I used to say every time, again I will repeat, presentation is much more important than content in geology. It's about marketing your answer. If you are able to write good content but without showing it off, in the sense we can say not marketing it, you will not be able to fetch good marks, even if you do not know the answers, but you are able to represent it in such a way that you are getting good, then you are showing that you may know about the topic, then you will get good marks. See, these papers of geology are checked by professors. Let's say if a professor is there, the professor, let's say, is from let's say IIT Kharagpur professor is checking. So he would be a professor who would be specialized for 20 years, let's say, in geochemistry. Now he is going to check entire paper 2. He would have no idea what, not said no idea, he would have an equal idea to us or even less idea to us about environment geology, about economic geology, about ore geology. That's why it's not important to go too deep into answers and answer. What is important is to have conceptual clarity. Conceptually, your answer should be wrong. Logically, your answer should be correct. And it must show some good diagrams, charts, maps, whatsoever you can make, and good presentation will matter. So that's all from my side. Thank you.